Oh, have I had a journey?
It's been a while.
Oh my god, I can't believe it's 10 years.
I can't believe it's been so long. I reckon it's great you're following up. I've always heard there's that classic dropout rating teaching in the first 5 years or whatever.
This longitudinal research began in 2011, where I followed 12 beginning teachers throughout their first year. My initial research was presented as a play titled The First Time, which consisted of 13 thematically related scenes, each depicting a beginning teacher's first experience as a moment of becoming in their identity transformation. In order to protect the anonymity of the participants, I used teachers with amazing acting skills.
It's very weird. Sometimes you forget it's a character and not your own early teaching experience kind of thing. It's like, oh my God, yes.
So I got back in touch with them as well to revisit their original characters.
Is this still her first school? Because her first school is really bad.
I gained ethics approval to revisit the original participants in 2020, their 10th year of teaching. Of course, there was a pandemic in there, meaning research in schools and about teachers was suspended to support them as they managed their increased workload. The interviews took place early in 2020 and then at the end of 2021, with a final check-in early in 2022, 12 years after their first year of teaching. Following the docudrama format, I recreated as closely as possible the locations of the participant interviews, moments in the interviews where, together, we mapped the participant's journey, reflected on previous data, and revisited the performed research.
I remember the first time I questioned if I really wanted to be a teacher.
Through analysis of their data, 6 themes emerged in relation to participants' decisions to stay in or leave the teaching profession and are presented here in 6 parts.
In my 4th year, I went to a private college. I started there with a 12-month contract, and then they rolled me over onto ongoing, and I was there for another 3 years, and in that 3rd term there, I went on maternity leave, and I've been on mat leave since then.
Because by the end of your pregnancy, you're tired, you're ready to start this whole new chapter of your life.
At the time, I was like, I'll go back part-time. It'll be easy. Teaching is made for parents, right? What a lie that was.
I've known a lot of women that have gone on maternity leave as a teacher, and I don't know any that have gone back full-time. I think that's quite interesting. I mean, I know quite a few of them have gone back part-time, and I even know some that haven't even gone back at all, not even to do CRT work.
I've got a newborn. I'm a little nervous. Well, not nervous. I'm going back full time. The only problem is it's on the other side of the city, so it will be a little bit hectic. The only thing that worries me is the breastfeeding, but she's such an easy baby. It's kind of sad to be away from her, but that's the way it is for me at the moment. I feel like I've ended up at one of the schools that really support women so much. I love them. I just wish they were on this side of the city.
The principal retired a couple of years ago. I really liked him. He was the one who hired me. He made the decision for me to come back part-time 2 days a week.
I tried to go back at the start of 2018 and I asked for like 2 or 3 days a week. But the best that they could do was give you like 2 days over 4 days or something like that. And it just really hasn't quite rolled through the way I thought it was going to. I thought like between each kid that I'd go back and teach 1 or 2 days a week. But it just hasn't worked like that. And
I guess maybe if I have another baby, seeing if I can go back part-time or even CRT, maybe.
I went back to do CRT work at my old school, and that was really good. I was getting regular work. I think I offered 3 or 4 days, or I offered all of them. I can't remember. But we had grandmas close by, so they were a really good help. And then I got pregnant again, and then the second one came along. So I had, I think, 2016 and 2017 off. And then 2018, I went back to do CRT work. And I got regular work. I mean, I didn't go through an agency or anything.
Because I had a baby before I came back from maternity leave, I got to have another 2 years, and then I've had another baby since then, and I was going to resign, actually. I was fairly sure I'd get another 2 years, and they were like, oh, I'm not sure what happens after a third baby.
I'm very comfortable. I've been given everything I've wanted to, like coming back part-time into a specialist position that I wanted to do with the year level that I wanted. I was so happy. Whereas a lot of people who come back and go back straight into the classroom part-time, I think that's quite challenging, actually.
I just can't get back into work being English. They really want me back 4 days a week. So I'm like, what am I going to do?
A lot of people have asked me, would I go back to full-time teaching? I don't think I would. It's really different once you have kids. I mean, the amount of hours that you put in out of hours doing research and making resources, no, I don't think I can do that. And I've heard now that there's more admin and paperwork than before, so it's crazy. I mean, I can't imagine putting in the same amount of effort as I did before. I think your priorities change a lot.
Yeah, came back here, and I've got friends here. I know the school works, so I can leave at 4 o'clock most days and get home to my baby and my wife and whatnot.
I was doing CRT when I was back in Australia, and I found that really amazing. I really found doing CRT, I really loved it. I feel like we don't give our CRTs enough credit. They're not given any credit at all in schools. Like, why don't we value casual teachers a lot more?
As a CRT, I'd go to heaps of schools and say, I can work every day. What have you got for me? And I think the convenience and the pay is really good. And I still get school holidays off as a CRT. But really, I feel you don't really teach anything. I mean, I feel like CRT work, especially with the little ones, is more like classroom management for the whole day. It's like, I don't feel you teach anything really worthwhile.
So my first term back was a real struggle. I was breastfeeding and I was pumping in my breaks, but they weren't giving me the correct amount of time, so I was having yard duties as well. And because of staffing swaps, I was given extra classes. So I went to the leadership team and I was like, no, it's not good enough. I'm not doing it anymore. It was really funny because since having a kid, I was like, no, I need to look after myself. Before that, I would have gone on every camp. I would have gone to every meeting. But I was like, nah, I can't. I'm already struggling coming back.
That year, my friend and I, we started our own small business. She's a primary school teacher as well, and our kids are roughly the same age. And we started a preschool class, incorporating all the stuff we knew. We run it in cafes, and parents can have a coffee while we teach their kids for an hour or so.
I probably will eventually go back full time, but I might also study.
Yeah, I think the whole maternity leave thing, going back to work, is a really interesting issue.
I did all my research and I ended up having a meeting with my campus principal and said, look, is it just that you don't want me coming back? Is this a personal thing? Because I feel like I've been treated terribly. Oh, no, we can't believe you think that, blah, blah, blah. So I should be allowed to have 10 keep in touch days where you get to essentially keep your skills up. And that's not a school thing. That's written into the maternity leave workplace rights or whatever it is. So then they sort of backpedaled and offered me a couple of days, but they've just not been good about it at all. So I haven't resigned. That is why I'm doing my Master of Library Teaching, because I'm like, if they can give me 1 day a week in the library, that's something, like, I'll take that. I guess I'll just have to see what happens.
My long-term relationship ended in 2017. Somewhat, but absolutely not entirely, due to being overworked and in a rut.
It was not a fun time. It kind of fell apart. So my partner and I, we worked at St. John's and we met at St. John's. And then in 2018, he ended it. And it's interesting too because, and this is a contextual factor that you'll need to include, I have very little discernment of time between 2015 and 2019. You know, you could play a record on repeat and it could be at any point at that time. And I think it's a bit of a reflection of where I was at with my mental health, with my own well-being.
So what made you take time off?
The key defining factor would be personal relationship breakdown. I was feeling like I can't blame work entirely, but school productions was taking all of my time, and I'd go home grumpy and tired, which wasn't fair on him. Add that to the irreconcilable differences, and it ended.
I ended up in a relationship with a staff member at the school, which, was kept professional. And then we ended up buying this house together and all that. And then it was, pretty hard breakup. When she left all of a sudden.
I probably at school had some very successful looking years that obviously weren't, because everything fell apart. Personally, hated everything. But at school, all smiles.
I think probably the state of my relationship, it was just literally like Groundhog Day. Every year, I taught 3 Year 12 psychology classes. Every single year, I was head of house and I was doing an okay job, but I wasn't happy and I wasn't my best self, and I also wasn't happy at school. I was having a few challenges with some members of staff and it fell to pieces, and it was the end of the year when the relationship officially ended.
I started this gardening club. A few kids would come to the school who were just lads and didn't fit in the yard. Also, I mean, you know what it's like when you're in class, the kids have no idea what you're going through, and then you're crying behind closed doors and picking yourself up and going again. So gardening was something that was a passion of mine as well, so it kind of, even though it was supporting the kids, it was probably for me, in a way at the time, because it was, pretty.
So he and I were working together, and I thought at the time, I think this is going to be my last year at St. John's, and I think it's now or never, and that was a massive crossroads for me. It was December, I'd also turned 30, and we've been together for 10 years. I turned 30, I'd been at St. John's for, actually, I got my 10 years of service that year, and so did he, and then no one knew that we'd broken up. I had to collect his award. You know those funny, hilarious things that aren't so hilarious, but are in hindsight? I think that was a big turning point. I think it's all good now.
She left the school at the end of the year, and then the breakup happened in the very start of the next year. But I inherited half her class from the previous year. Sorry, it was really hard. And because we had a dog together, beautiful Rottweiler, he used to come to school frequently. The kids knew we were together. Sorry, it was really hard.
But then I met my new partner. We're still together. It's our 3-year anniversary next week, which is lovely.
We separated, and it turned out to be the best thing ever.
That was back then, but now I'm happily married. at the end of last year. Yeah, so it's all come full circle. But yeah, it was pretty hard period in the middle. Yeah. I oversee a lot of the graduates with their registration stuff. Probably one of the things I like about the registration stuff is probably the only time I ever talk about having a little breakdown. Just so that because I think they're feeling the same things.
What would have made you leave?
If we didn't have enough support for teachers.
Me and my close circle of friends, like something like we do, we sit around and we're like, how are we still doing this? We are so burnt out, so exhausted. We're in a book club together, so we catch up, which is lovely. And in the last, I guess, 8 years, one friend completely left education.
I just hadn't. I didn't really build up any relationships. I didn't get to know anyone. No one was in the staff room at lunchtimes. The only numbers I had in my phone were leadership and my team. I didn't actually know anyone else. And then, yeah, came back here. I think it's just one of those things you don't know it until you're not in that environment. Like, I didn't realise how important it was having friends at work. You don't know what your work-life balance is going to be like with the expectations and that sort of thing. So, having that taken away from me to go somewhere I didn't know anyone.
It was very easy to walk away. There were few people I had absolutely no issue of walking away from. I've got some really dear friends there that I worked with that I still see, but there are a few of them I was like, okay, see you later.
And another friend completely left and she went into the tourism industry the year before the pandemic, the poor thing. So she had to come back and do CRT, and she's just like, every day I do a day of CRT, I am reaffirmed that I will never ever work full-time as a teacher ever again. And we're so jealous of her. Maybe one day we'll give up.
So my all-time favourite team, I had a great one the year before, but this year I have my graduate teacher who is like my work sister. Then I've got my work mum and my work auntie, and they're in their 60s, and we go out for lunch together and drinks together, and we just all get along.
I think the people around you are the biggest factor. And I just think if you don't have the right people around you, then there's a high chance that you could think, I'm going to leave. But then you're leaving these guys behind. And even on really bad days, I've fought to come to work to see them. So I think that's a big factor.
I was bored. I was starting to have that narrative in my head of what I now recognize as toxic nostalgia. But at the time, obviously, I didn't. And I think that's also very much limited my capacity to grow.
And maybe I didn't want to be a teacher anymore.
And I was like, if this doesn't work, do I need to consider another profession? Could I be an education officer, working at a museum or at the aquarium?
I was actually considering leaving the teaching profession 100%. I love sustainability, I love animals, and I considered maybe doing a short course, something like zoology or something like that. I'd love to work in a zoo, Hillsville or Melbourne Zoo or a farm.
And then I always thought, could I be in sports admin? But then I would have had to have gone back to university to do more study, and I would have to go back to the starting wage. I've got a mortgage now. I couldn't afford that.
I knew I needed to do my master's or something a bit more meaningful. And I got into the University of Oslo, and that was a 2-year experience of, it was amazing. 1 year in Norway, coursework and fun travel. And then I decided I was going to do my thesis, and the research would be in Lebanon for the Syrian refugee crisis. And I also did an internship at the UN. It was something I really wanted to do because I wanted to just get out of teaching and education.
So I was at my first school for 3 years, and at the end of it, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just wanted to quit. And then my mum talked me into doing another year.
I wanted to leave and still be in the education profession, but not as a teacher. I was very disillusioned by it. I don't know whether it was the profession itself or just the school, but when I actually moved schools, it was like I got my mojo back.
So I stayed on, and I sort of got my mojo back.
Just a different environment, different people, and different expectations.
I've got my dream job, head of service learning, which I kind of pushed for after I went to a PD on transforming service learning there. And I was like, this is exactly up my alley and was exactly what I was doing at my previous school. And we'd formed such a great program, and it's exactly what I want to do here.
It was probably at the end of my 6th year, really, that I started feeling really comfortable.
Now I'm really thinking about doing a PhD, but I don't know exactly what to do it in, like service learning. And now that I've got this role and I've got a time allowance for it, I'm like, can I do a PhD as well?
I'd always meant to teach in the UK. I started in May to July in one school, and then September 2016 to until I quit in December. They were like, please stay until the end of term 2, and I was like, no.
My partner and I were sort of really keen to still travel because we had that amazing 4 months of travel. So in 2016 and 2017, we lived in London and did CRT and a mixture of secondary and primary. The longest kind of contract I filled there was for a term.
I had some friends who moved to the UK and decided to do teaching there. So at the back of my mind, I was like, what can I do? Restless feet. Something's got to change.
After my 6th year, my partner and I, we went lived in London for 2 years doing mainly CRT, then got sick of that, so into the classroom for a bit, and then sick of that, so back into CRT. It's just not fun to teach over there. You walk into some schools and you just go, what's going on here? Like, the kids would walk in and see me and just be like, you almost see the glee in their faces. They go, their normal teacher's not here, so they just think it's a free pass. It was a good test of my capability, still learning a lot. Yet kids come up and go, sir, you actually taught me something today, because I think they have such a low expectation and view of CRTs.
The school was a little rough, but my classes were so wonderful, and B had a fairly similar experience when she worked in the UK. Just the school system and the management is so political that it stops being about teaching and it becomes being about faking results. It was really frustrating, and everyone kept being like, oh Mag, oh the Australians just have their own way.
Part of the agreement was that I'd only work 4 days a week, with either Monday or Friday off, so I could trip around the world, which I did.
By the end of it, I was like, I miss my friends. It's like 1 to 3 years is what most people do. So most of my friends were leaving, and it gets a little exhausting because people come every 3 months. It gets exhausting making new friends every 3 months. So eventually I was just like, I'm done.
Ideally, want to get up to like learning specialist level, but I hear that's just not going to happen. The way it's done here, the people that are in those positions are not going anywhere.
The boss was all about developing young leaders. So I was really thankful that in my 4th year of teaching, I was able to get a leadership role. It was really good for me, and it was a real vote of confidence for me as a teacher that he knew that I could do this job. That was my first year of being in charge. And that makes you doubt yourself. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm not experienced enough for this job. There were so many people that were more experienced than me.
There were these learning specialist jobs, but I was pregnant, so I didn't go for them. And I said to my principal, I feel like in my career, there's always been one person above me or one situation that meant I didn't go for it, or I got pregnant, or something happened. And I just never quite got there. He said, there are learning specialist jobs coming up at the end of the year. And he said, you should go for it. And I said, I'm part-time mum, how can I go for it? And he said, you can still apply for a full-time position and then accept it at a pro rata rate. I was gobsmacked because no one does that. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. So I went for it, not thinking I was going to actually get it.
I'd like to get more experience across the board, so that way I can have a higher position.
Yeah, I was having to take on a lot of the leadership stuff at my old school, and I felt like I just hadn't taught long enough or anything yet. Just give me one moment. Where was I? Yeah, so I felt like I hadn't taught enough or had enough experience. So I didn't feel confident going in and trying to run the place. So that's why I sought out, more experienced teachers and environment with like older staff, just so I could really get my teaching skills up before I did that.
I always feel like that my to-do list always has hundreds of things on it. And it's funny because now I'm in this role, I feel like I'm a mum at school because you always put your kids first and you come second. And I feel like that now at school. I'm always going to check on my team. Every morning I go in and I check on them and I check if they need help with anything, and then I get back to my desk and go, oh God, I have not planned the lesson I'm doing today. So I'm making sure that they're okay before I'm worrying about myself. But I think that's also part of being a leader, is making sure that everyone else is functioning and then worrying about yourself later. This is technically my 10th year teaching, so I should really have a hold on all the other stuff.
If you don't like teaching, that's okay. It's okay to go and do something else. You don't have to be a teacher just because you've done the degree.
I'm just an entirely different person. My self-efficacy is better. I've learned so much about leadership and well-being. I've totally changed. I look back and I think, wow, like who was that baby teacher?
I remember the first time I questioned if I really wanted to be a teacher.
All my classes are really good, except the days when I have sport. And that's just because I like sport. But when we have sport and we're outside and the kids get out into a big open space,
I look at graduate teachers now, and we do a full-time CRT role at our school, and that's a graduate teacher. And I look at them and I think, that was me.
I definitely didn't have a work-life balance in those early years. I was trying to keep my head above the water. What is teaching and all that sort of stuff? In the moment, I thought I had a work-life balance. But in hindsight, I was way too focused on work. I mean, it took all my time and thoughts and everything.
Please.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's the first one. Yep. What do you see now?
Probably more students, maybe? Yeah, look how teacher-centered that first one is, because it's all about trying to work out what you're bloody doing. Oh, and that open plan teaching, that was just ridiculous in the end. There was one time when I was trying to teach dance theory and someone else in the next room was trying to teach Japanese, and then someone else in the next room is trying to teach Chinese or something, that like whatever was happening. Anyway, long story short, that school now has walls.
We had a really difficult cohort, and I got brought back up to grade 6, so I ended up having that cohort in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6.
I was never going back once I walked out that door. It was just too horrible. Some terrible things happened at the end of the year. I lost another student in November. And yeah.
It probably almost killed me. There was this one kid at school who had a real tough home life, having him removed from his home and everything. Yeah, that's why I got brought back up to have him again in grade 6. That was really hard, but he's probably by far the most resilient kid I've ever taught. You think in 10 years' time, you just hope he manages to hold on and come out the other end. Yeah, we get a lot of that.
I had a target on my back from leadership and I just couldn't do anything right. So yeah, I'm not one to blame out. Like, I have a pretty high internal locus of control, but it was like, I can't win. Like, I could give you my kidney, and I would have given you the wrong kidney. Like, it's just, you know, when there's no point, when you can't change anything.
I think maybe 5th year of teaching, I'm speaking all over the place, so I'm just trying to be honest so you get an accurate picture. Probably like what I was saying to you in my first year, I do teach a little bit differently and like to do things a little bit differently, and the expectations I placed upon myself at the time, it got to the point where I probably had a mental breakdown and had 2 weeks off teaching, where I thought if I could manage picking fruit on a farm for the rest of my life, then that would be great. But I managed to pull myself together and carry on. So, yeah, that mental health thing probably came to a head in 5th year.
I was thinking about work-life balance, especially because lots of people talk about it these days. And I do think I got that advice as a newbie. And I became a mentor as well. And I gave her that advice in her first year. And you will cry in your first year, and it's okay. You will do it. And I think it was just don't stress. I think I tried to push the classroom management sort of stuff as well, because I do remember I was always struggling with things like that.
I had a very obvious burnout year in my 3rd year because I had VCA psychology as well as the year 9s, and then they sent me to South Africa on the leadership camp. I was social justice coordinator. Also, I had a breakup of an 8.5-year relationship, so there were probably a couple of factors going on there.
I think I would have had a breakthrough no matter what.
I was putting too high expectation on myself. We're into day 3 and I was getting upset.
So I was on the middle school campus, which is lovely, with like these beautiful kids, and they're just such a contrast to like the hell that I was experiencing at my first school, where like I was being told to like kill myself. I was going home crying every single day. So really it's just going from one extreme to another, really.
Why'd you go home early yesterday?
I went home to cry.
What? No!
How big does that feature in your life 10 years later?
Oh, I've had so many of these moments in my teaching. So many.
Was it because of the school or?
Yeah, I felt it took me a long time to feel supported at that school. But at the same time, I was devastated when I left because I'd made so many friendships.
Every time I have a student teacher, I'm so jealous of the lesson they do. Like, they prepare so much and they have so much going on in these activities, and I just love it when it works. I'm just envious of the freedom they have, because now with this instructional model, we've actually got like set minutes for what we have to do in each part of the class. You can only give direct instruction 15 minutes, and you do feel yourself looking at the clock if you've gone over and it's like, oh, I've got off track here. Whereas student teachers, they run these great lessons that are quite often them interacting and teaching, and it's a bit of back and forth. And I feel like your teaching's become a lot more restricted and robotic and following a formula, and especially tie that in with documented curriculum, and it's just like there's a real sense of being inspected at the moment. I don't know. It's changed so much from when I first started. For better or worse, it was a lot more loose, and you were given like a text or a topic to teach, and you went about it and you worked with your colleagues, and it was nice.
I have a grad at the moment. Well, technically she's in her 3rd year, but she's mature age. And I watch her teach and I think how much better she is than I was when I was in my 3rd year. I don't know if it's because she's more experienced in life or the fact that she has her children of her own. She's just she's so calm and so clear. I'm almost in awe of her. I was trying to think back how I was, and I just don't think I was like that. I don't know, I'm not sure. I feel like they all cope pretty well. There is one grad that I feel a bit sorry for, but that was because she had a really difficult class in her first year. She had some pretty severe behavioural issues. I don't think she was supported the way she should have been supported. She probably shouldn't have been given those classes. When she was really struggling, maybe term 3, I was looking at her and I was thinking, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember feeling very overwhelmed by not being supported. My first year, I didn't feel very supported by my team at all, and that was really, really hard.
Yeah, do you remember what it was like to be that first year teacher?
I remember it like it was yesterday. In fact, I've got all my photos from every single class. I'm going to go and get it.
It is so much harder being a graduate teacher this year versus when I was a graduate in 2011. God help you, like the kids' needs could not be higher. Their needs are so complex right now. The number of friendship issues and mental health, they were already hard. I remember in my first year, I had one of the hardest classes. They were completely dysfunctional.
This was the year that I would say was probably my worst year of teaching. I had heaps of naughty boys. He was naughty. He was naughty. He refused to work. He was really naughty. He was ASD, autistic, and his mum didn't believe that he was autistic, but the grandma thought that he was, and he had to have an aide all the time. This one had family issues, and by the end of the year, I'd actually got him into counselling because things had just blown up. He had bad anxiety. He was really naughty. He was really naughty. He would cry all the time. This one had Tourette's. He was naughty. He'd be flipping tables. And this one was a bit of a space cadet. But my girls were beautiful. My boys were just such hard work all the time. I'd come home every day just exhausted.
Then at the end of 2017, life threw us a pretty hard curveball, as it tends to. And we had a pretty tragic loss in our family.
And if I had experienced this in my first year, I wouldn't have continued teaching. But I knew that that was part of teaching, that it wasn't always going to be like this.
I really didn't know if I would be able to get back into teaching. But I think of where I was emotionally, grieving quite a bit at that time, I found teaching quite helped reconnect in a way to the world after something like that happens.
I had a couple of really difficult kids, like one kid had ADHD, was undiagnosed autistic, like another girl, her dad was a drunk. Like he came and abused me like multiple times drunk. Like these kids, like they're from traumatic backgrounds, like psychological, like DHS, all that type of stuff. Like it was sort of a bit of an eye-opener to that side of things.
I don't know if there's something special about teaching. You emotionally connect, obviously, with the students so much. And in English, a lot of what we explore is about very serious life events. So you sort of feel like you bring something more to the table. To have these conversations with kids or explore these themes. And in a weird way, like I felt like teaching was my saving grace at that point.
We have purpose. We have, we feel like we're making a difference.
I think in my earliest years, I just thought having that relationship would get them to come to the table for content. Now I feel like that's great. I still build that kind of relationship with most of my kids. I get to know them. But more importantly, to know them academically and conference with them and speak to them as learners.
What do you miss most when you look back at your first couple of years as a full-time, in one school teacher? What were the good things about that?
I think it's just having those relationships with the kids and how much you mean to them. I was cleaning out my house the other day and I found these booklets that they'd made for me at the end of the year. And, you know, they really, really make an impact on you. And I really miss that part of it.
I'm passionate about what I do, definitely passionate, and I want to impact upon kids' lives. Also, I see education moving in the wrong direction in a lot of aspects,
I kind of knew in my head that I wouldn't be teaching for years and years and years before stopping. But in my head too, at that time, it would have been nice to secure that ongoing position before I left. But it turns out I'm happy anyway doing what I'm doing now. So,
I felt so stuck. That last year was really tough for me. I was on the verge of having a breakdown a few times that year because I was just so frustrated.
You know, why am I doing this?
How did I survive this? How does anyone walk into this and then be like, yeah, I want to keep teaching for the next 12 years?
I wasn't challenging myself and I was complaining about everything. You hear yourself like everything's bad, everything's hard, and nothing's your fault. And that's absolutely the mindset that I was in.
We teach kids that have got extremely high emotional needs. And I had this just last week. His phone went off in class. I didn't even say anything. I didn't raise my voice. I wasn't upset it went off. So I just looked in his direction and I think I just said something like, okay, so you know what the policy is. And he fully stormed out of class, slammed the door on his way out. And I'm like, how is this still happening? Like, this isn't a thing that happens. But I would say I've had a very low frequency of things like that happening. I think I create a much calmer classroom. I think probably in my early years, you've just, in survival mode. So a lot of the time you were just reacting like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen.
So it was my 5th year when I decided I wanted to leave my first school because, well, I was starting to feel really disillusioned by it all and I was ready to leave. That was probably one of the best decisions I had ever made, was to move schools.
I didn't think I would come back to it, and it became something that gave me a bit of function and purpose. And so I kind of got lured back into teaching at this point. But now I go in with more proactive measures. Straighten all the tables first, have a seating plan. You're going to sit here, you're going to be doing this and that, and all the things set up in place. If you're a bit more prepared that things generally don't go down that path, but even when that kid responded like that, it wasn't normal. I probably would have been quite panicked in my early years.
But also it made me a little bit more, more resilient, maybe. I don't know. It made me realise I can actually go elsewhere for support.
Looking back now, I think it's more playing that long game. Understanding that it is a process. You could really feel overwhelmed with it all. If you intend in being in teaching for a long time, it's as much as it's a passion. I think it's so important that you keep those external activities that keep you human, because you can very easily morph into that teacher that no one wants to have and no one wants to be.
The principal was very supportive of me going off and trying new things. So early on in 2018, while still finding myself and trying to work out what I wanted to do with my life, I applied for a year leave without pay for 2019. Now, I don't know if it was because the light was at the end of the tunnel, but 2018 turned out to be one of the best years of my life and career. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, well, obviously there were some ups and downs, but I remember far more ups.
Now I'm trying to work out what I want to do with my life. So I love working at a school. I love working with kids. So I have to remind myself, this is what I love doing, and I guess this is what my purpose is. I'll get back at some stage.
After doing 2 years of coordination, I dropped to 0.8, which I've maintained since, which I'm really enjoying. I found that actually, for me personally, that's actually a really good balance of work and not work.
Oh yes, I was really happy about getting that position, that family leave. Even though it's not a guaranteed 7 years, it's something a bit more permanent and secure than, for 6 months or to a couple of years. Because normally when people go on maternity leave, it's longer than 6 months. So yeah, I was really happy. But then I remember toward the end of my 3rd year, I did go for an ongoing position. I was up against a few people. Sadly, I didn't get it, which was a shame. But I was going off and going to have a baby anyway, so...
At the end of my 2nd year, the principal said, I've got one position and both of you can apply for it. It was me and this other teacher. We started at the exact same time, did the exact same course, the exact same subjects, and I was like, oh shit, that's not good. So I didn't want to do it because you already know who's in the box seat.
And I was thinking, you're getting more confident. But then sometimes that confidence was completely misplaced, and I actually wasn't as confident as what I thought.
But I applied. I didn't get the job.
You know, there are so many more people out there that are more experienced than me.
And at that point, I planned to leave teaching. I was like, I'm done. I thought I'd have a bit of a break from it.
I'm not experienced enough.
And then a month later, a teacher got a job at another school, and I was given an ongoing position with like a condition which was to be the Year 7 coordinator, which I was very unhappy about.
I was at my first school for 3 years, and I think the first 2 years I was like graduate classroom teacher, both of those years. And then in the third year, I took on a student leadership role, and I was a bit worn out after those 3 years. I was trying to kind of rethink and reinvent myself a little bit because I just felt so burnt out. That was a pretty full on 3 years.
It was hard because I was doing my best.
It was shocking. Because at my school, coordinator positions are not fought over or a desirable position. It's kind of like a tap on the shoulder, or you're kind of forced to do it. So it's pretty shitty because I was kind of like, I was 3 years in and I was just kind of starting to take off. Like, they were interesting years. I learnt a lot, but I feel like my progression with my past teaching was hit pretty hard by that. Because I found year level coordination took up all my time.
Boys. Oh, yeah, I remember those boys. They'd stand on the chairs, stand on the boxes, push the boxes at each other. I find it interesting that work is such a big word. Like, maybe I shouldn't, but I think of it as a negative connotation. Hard work.
Well, I know as a teacher, and teaching is really big. School, that's really interesting. Kids get a bit more dominant. Wow, yeah, it looks like it's focused on teaching and being in the classroom. Quite interesting. I think this is why, what I speak about these were nice years. I feel like I was so invested in the classroom and teaching and actually having a really good time and actually, hopefully, doing a good job. And I feel like now, looking at this, the actual classroom teaching feels like the smallest part of my job now. It's like it's a real shame. I like looking at this. It's clearly focused on the job. Whereas now it's like, I don't know, if you ask me now, it would be like documented curriculum or NAPLAN instructional model.
I definitely see curriculum and planning. Planning is important.
I understand there's a curriculum to be taught, but I don't necessarily think everyone needs to be going about it the same way.
But I'm sure from that, I did a lot of growing.
It's interesting to see that. It's nice. I quite like looking at that. So I see that quite warmly.
But also, I think circling back to that work-life balance.
I haven't really stopped yoga and meditation throughout the past 10 years, but I definitely had periods of, I felt like my first 4 years I was on a really nice trajectory, but a few things happened in my life and I found that rather than continuing, I plateaued for a bit with my practices for a 2 or 3 year period. Lately I've been trying to spend a bit more time with that stuff because I noticed in myself when I'm not doing it, I feel like things fall apart or things get more difficult, or at least seem more difficult. And when I'm in a better, calmer state, everything seems better at work and in my life around me. I don't know how it works, but yeah.
I do think what's changed, more thinking about me and seeing friends, making time to chill out and all that mindfulness stuff. Walk my dog in the park. Every morning get up and go for a walk on the beach because I really need to be by the ocean. It's made a huge difference on my mental health.
I just felt a lot more relaxed, less stressed, and it made me feel like I was enjoying teaching again.
So I felt like I was flying. I felt like I was on top of everything. Like, there were bad days in that, but it was actually just great. I loved it. So I'd still say they were my best years, the first three. I feel a lot more restricted now.
I stay in it for the students. There's honestly never another answer for me. I turn up and do what I do 100% for my students. I hate to take a day off and not spend a lesson with them. I'd feel guilty if I wasn't there.
When you first start teaching, you don't want to take a day off. You don't want to leave early.
I turn up and I do it for them. Like our English team, we go out for drinks and we've kind of got a real identity and we're quite connected, so that's really nice.
I'm around people that I love and that are supportive, and I really like this year level.
What were the highlights?
Oh, easy, regardless of coordination. It's just like the first 3 years. I wasn't reckless, but I just felt like I had total freedom. I was fearless in what I taught, and it was really enjoyable. And it was also nice being like, now that I can reflect back on it, it was nice being the new teacher. I could see it was kind of popular back then with the students, which is definitely like, yeah, now it's not the same.
I used to think that staying in school a long time was a really valuable thing, but I think that was just the modelling I had. Now, I say that the length of time you stay at school is no reflection on where you're at. Are you still a good teacher? Are you still learning? Are you still growing? How are you helping the kids? What's your attitude?
Yeah, 100%, it's the students for me.
In our first year, we went to some VIT graduate conference, and the statistic was something like 50% of teachers quit within 5 years. Is it still the same, or is it higher?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but I'm still teaching. The thing is, for me, I always like to have one thing that's stable in my life because things have been. Look, it's been a bit of a journey. Yeah, I guess school is that constancy.
I look back now and my whole experience with my first school was unbelievable. But I also struggled a bit with the patriarchy and the Catholic education system. I really wanted to change the power setting and give students more meaningful experiences at school. And that's when I started taking a social justice path. And I started an amazing social justice group, and we did a lot of stuff. And I think then I really found my passion for service learning.
In the future, do you still see yourself in teaching?
I don't, but I didn't expect to be here now. I'm very surprised. I really thought, like, even when I graduated, I wasn't even sure I was going to teach after that. So, who knows? I'm very surprised I'm still here. I think the more I teach, the more desperate I'm becoming to just want some time to learn myself. So I definitely see some future study, but yeah, I really desire to just have some time, a bit of sabbatical time. So I don't know what I'll do after that.
We were actually talking about new graduate teachers recently, and like all of us remember from that first year, no amount of theory, no amount of testing, or any of this ever prepared you for being in a classroom responsible for 26 students full time.
Do you know what? Most of the learning I did was in a school. Like, yes. Good boy. Like, yes. Obviously, you need to do the theory and you need to have the classes and lectures at uni and do your assignments. But most of what you learn is in practice in the classroom.
I think like all of the theory never fully readied you just for the chaos of a class. And it's chaotic, and now you're their teacher for 12 months. Great.
I remember my first day and just, you know, the kids all around at their tables playing, and I'm looking around going, I'm responsible for all of you.
So what would you tell your first year teacher self now?
You don't have to work at a school that you know to do a good job. It's okay to learn about a new school and learn how to be a teacher at the same time.
So what is, one thing that you would tell a beginning teacher or your beginning teacher self?
Oh, what is one thing? God. What is one thing I would
Apart
say?
from you're going to have 3 babies.
What is one thing I would say? You know what? If you think it's a good job for having children, don't bother.
I reckon if I did go back, I wouldn't recognise anyone and I know them anyway. A lot of the friends I had have gone off overseas teaching and we don't really keep in contact anymore. So, and this is going to sound bad, but I don't feel bad about leaving.
You know, that's actually a very interesting question. So, don't get involved in school politics.
You don't have to be ongoing. You don't have to be in leadership. You don't have to do everything.
Be creative with the curriculum, which I found hard at times because you're trying to do what everyone else is doing. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Be true to the way you want to teach because there is a prescribed curriculum and essentially everyone has to teach it. And if you don't, people crack it. But teach it the way you know, in a way that you know that you're good at teaching and that you enjoy teaching and that kids will respond to, which is easier said than done.
Develop your teaching style. Like, I gotta do, you gotta know where your strengths are as a teacher, but you've also got to be the one in charge of the class. Like, you have to be the authority figure. If you're not, the kids will not respect you and they won't respond to you.
Really make an effort to get to know your students, especially the ones you think are going to cause you problems.
Come in with an idea of how you're going to manage the class. Like, get to know the kids' names as quick as you can. Just be a bit more sensitive, gentle with how you treat people in general.
Make sure you go find them at lunchtime, have a nice chat to them, get them on side.
I think I've had like those first 3 years to get myself in the classroom and understand what teaching is and all that sort of stuff.
I'd had enough by the end of the second year and I was just a little bit sick and tired. But my classes were beautiful. It was getting kind of political. They kept bringing things in that in my first year I don't remember doing. Maybe I did actually, but I'd forgotten. But I don't remember doing any like meetings with the principal about your goals and all that sort of stuff. Even in my second school, I don't remember having that. Now, we had a meeting about my VIT yesterday, and it was all like, you've got to put in your goals and this and this and this. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. What are these words?
If I went back now, I probably wouldn't go into leadership. So I did a bit of that in the first 3 years, whereas now, not interested. When I was heading into teaching, straight to the top.
I think a lot of it's changed. Or maybe I was just becoming more responsible, so I was having to do more.
What's next? Are you looking for a sort of leadership pathway? Is that your plan, or do you have a plan? You're just gonna
Yeah, looking back the last 10 to 12 years, mostly there hasn't been much of a plan.
Thanks for that. It's been awesome having a good old chat.
Yeah, that's been nice, isn't it? I hope I haven't scared anyone away.
Been so nice to rehash it all. Everything changes so much, even in just 2 years. I think there's been a lot of change.
Gosh, it's been so many years since then. Far out.
And we've got it documented. Oh, that's so funny.